Hey everyone, my name is Kevin Grote, and today I'm going to be reviewing Pachacuna by Treeceratops. In Pachacuna, you'll be taking on the role of a villager who travels from village to village, selling and trading goods, and you do so with the help of your lovely llamas. So let's jump right in and check out the game. Okay, so when you open the game box, this is everything that you're going to find inside. You have the assembly plan, a bunch of tiles, different colored resources, 3 white llamas, 3 black llamas, a bunch of demands, 6 frame pieces, and a center village tile. Now, I really want to stress the fact that this is a prototype. Now, you'll notice that this is just thin paper. I'm sure the final version will be much higher quality than this. But the way that this works is it shows you the layout in which all of your villages and all of your tiles should be set up. And so I'm just going to set up the game really fast and you can basically see how it works. So let's do that now. So the game is now set up. We are ready to begin. Now, I want to start by mentioning that Pachacuna is a 2-player game. No more, no less, okay? The goal of the game is to acquire 7 different resources. Now, in this game, your resources are represented by these little colored wood pieces, and your goal is to gain 1 of each different color. And the way that you do that is by traveling to all the different villages on the board and acquiring the different resources that they have. So the white player is always going to be the one that goes first, and the white will travel through the valleys, which are the green, grassy landscape parts of the board, and the black player with the black llamas will travel on the darker portions, which are mountains. And the black player also gets to start with a gray resource, which, unlike all the other colored resources, cannot be used to help getting you any closer to winning the game, but it will come in handy for acquiring additional llamas, and we'll talk about that in just a minute. But the first thing you do on your turn is you're going to pick any one tile on the board, and you're going to pick it up and rotate it and place it back down. And so that's how you create paths to get to the different villages. So right now, with this white llama, which you'll notice that both llamas have, because you always start in the center, they both have white resources on their backs. That's because they're starting in the white village. The white player can choose to rotate this tile like that, giving them a bit of a path. And so they can start moving this direction to maybe go drop off their white resource down here at this yellow village. And then, because they didn't really go any further, they didn't make it to a village, their turn would actually be done. The black player would then get to choose a tile, rotate it, and move on top of the mountains. And so let's say the black player moves there and they can travel that way. Now there's no maximum number of spaces that you can travel when you are moving. It is totally up to you how far you want to go, but if you're not on a village, you have to go at least 1 space. But other than that, if you've got a straight path to where you're going, you can go all the way there. However, if you go through a village, you do have to stop in that village and then you can continue your movement next turn. Now, if you make it to a village on your turn, you can do 2 things. You can either sell or you can buy. Now, selling is what you do with the different colored resources that you're carrying around the board. So if you come from the white village, you'll have a white resource. If you come from the blue village, you'll have a blue resource. And you're going to look at these different little demands here on each village, and they show you what types of resources they're looking for. So this village here is looking for blue or orange resources. So let's say that this llama actually had a blue resource and they made it to this village here. So the color that is on the top, you'll notice that the banner is a bit larger than the one on the bottom. So what that means is even though this resource is on the white llama's back, this resource does not actually belong to the player yet. This does not get them any closer to winning the game. So you make it to the village that is looking for blue, and because this is the blue on the top, then you get to keep that blue resource. It is now actually in the player's supply, and because it's the one on top, they get to take an additional blue. Now, if they had instead brought an orange resource, the lower one here, instead of getting 2 of them, they would basically just get the orange off of their llama's back, and that's it. So the reason you would want more than one of each color is because you can buy extra llamas with your additional resources. Because once again, you don't need 2 blue to win the game, you only need 1 of each color. And so an additional blue doesn't do you any good when it comes to winning the actual end game condition, but you can use your additional resources to buy more llamas and therefore spread out and hopefully accomplish things a little bit faster. So once you've acquired a resource, you can choose to place it in this little slot on the edge of your board, and then once all 7 of these slots are filled up with the different colors, then you have won. So now I want to take a minute to talk about the tiles, because the tiles are really cool. Even though this is a prototype, these tiles are double layered. Now this could easily have just been artwork, right? Because on the back it's actually just artwork, but they took time and they made some really nice prototype double layered tiles here. And they really make the board feel quite a bit more dynamic. And they also help you pick the pieces up. So I imagine that's probably a good reason, not just aesthetically why it exists, but if it wasn't for the double layered nature of the tiles, you'd probably have a really tough time picking them up. The game on its own is already a little bit fiddly because as things sit kind of tight together, there are times where you pick a tile up and the other ones around it kind of move. And so that is one issue that you might experience while playing, but it's never one where I felt like as I lifted a tile, things really got messed up. It was just kind of a tile popped up slightly and you just pushed it back down. So a little bit fiddly in that regard, but not so bad that it's going to actually cause any problems. The main fiddliness of it is the resources on the back of your llamas. Some of them sit tight, others fall right off. Now, this is a prototype. I have no idea how precise the size of all the different pieces is going to be in the final version. I mean, I imagine it'll be better, and so this could be a moot point. But I still want to bring it up because if these are the exact sizes and cuts of all the different resources and llamas, there is a chance that you could go to grab your llama and the resource falls off. And I had a couple games where I kind of just got tired of dealing with the resources falling off, so rather than even putting it onto the llama's back, I instead just kind of had it next to the llama and I just grabbed them both and moved them together. So that's one thing that's worth noting. But this is a very unique pick up and deliver game because the fact that the white can only travel in the valleys and the black can only travel on the mountains, it's a very interesting take on movement on a board. Because you move through different areas and you can use it to not only create a new path for yourself as you rotate a piece, but you can also block your opponent. And so the way that you move might change depending on whether you're trying to, block your opponent's movement or, just get to where you're going as quickly as possible. But one thing that I actually didn't get to is once you make it to a village, you don't have to sell resources. Instead, you can buy an additional llama. So buying one of your extra llamas costs 4 resources of any color. And that's where the gray resource for the black player comes into play. This does not get you any closer to winning, so you can't place it in here and use it like a wild or anything like that. But you can use it to buy an additional llama. It just means that the black player only needs to collect 3 different or 3 more resources before it can acquire its second llama. And so when you have more than 1 llama, you still only get to rotate 1 tile on the board, but you'll then have multiple llamas that can move around and get to places faster. Hopefully, by the time you have acquired enough resources where you feel comfortable spending 4 to buy an extra llama, there's a good chance that you have created a few paths already. And so it's possible that your opponent will rotate something and kind of block a path for you. But you don't feel like you're starting from the beginning where you really have no paths going anywhere. And so by then, you've got 2 and then maybe eventually 3 llamas that can spread out and hit the different villages pretty quickly. And it feels good to gain 2 colors that you don't already have in the same turn. And potentially 3, because you can have 3 llamas. But I guess I haven't had a game where anyone has actually bought 3 llamas yet. Usually once you get that second llama, it's like 1, 2, maybe 3 turns after that, the game's over. And so grabbing that third one, I mean, it could be pretty useful. especially if you're able to do it fairly early on. Like maybe you found a way to get a bunch of the same colored resource really quickly, and then you just spend your extras to buy more llamas. But I didn't experience that, and so I mean that's just another thing that I could continue playing and try to experience. Just try to create a strategy where it's just get all 3 llamas as fast as I can and see how that handles things. I think that would be interesting. But when it comes down to it, like the movement in this game is very unique. And the way that these demands work is anytime you sell a good, sell a resource, it will get discarded and then a new one will be drawn. And so what is required throughout the board is going to change. So you might move around the board and sell certain goods at certain villages that your opponent can't sell in that village, because by the time you sell it, the demands change and that village is now looking for something different. I've never played a pick up and deliver game that has the same kind of restrictions and strategy to movement as the way that this one does. The movement is by far what kind of sets this game apart from the rest. The only thing that I didn't really understand is the resources and the way that they work, because I feel like I should be able to take a orange resource, to this purple village, sell it because they want orange, and then acquire a purple in exchange. But instead, I sell the orange to the purple village and I acquire an orange in exchange. And in this case, I would actually acquire 2 orange. So even though the purple village wants orange resources, they're going to give me more than I gave them. And so that part felt a little bit disjointed to me. And I do still gain a purple resource, but it just goes onto the back of my llama, and then the llama has to still deliver it somewhere else before I can actually gain that purple. And so that part felt a little bit odd to me, but not so much that it really bothered me at all. It just kind of, it was the one thing that I kept having to remind myself is that once I've gained that purple, I really haven't gained it when it's just simply on the back of my llama. It still needs to go somewhere else. But overall, like it's a very interesting game, and I think it's definitely worth looking at and worth playing. And so if it sounds interesting to you, check out the Kickstarter page, check out everything they have, listed, and I hope you'll give it a shot. So that has been my review of Pachacuna. Once again, my name is Kevin Grote. Thank you so much for watching, and enjoy these cute little llamas.